the back here don't hear me. Anyhow, welcome. We have a big program today. Can you hear me? Yes. Can you all hear me? Yeah. Okay. We have a big program today, a lot of excitement until we're going to get right with it. If you all pray stand, and we'll salute the flag. The flag and I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm going to call on our guest here who will have important information before we begin the meeting. And we'll start with Captain Di Bernardino. Captain?
Maybe Stan can first. Is Stan Goodman here?
Yes, okay. Stan Goodman. I'm not screwing up. Lori's going to hate me. Come on.
No. Just
Come
Stan
on.
introduces
Stan.
just names our guests.
Okay.
Go ahead, Stan. Do your thing.
My pleasure to announce the
That mic got
One
one.
of my, it's working. Put the mic up.
my pleasure to introduce the dignitaries and guests that we have with us today. Please hold your applause until I'm finished. Sarah Also From, Director of Community Relations, GL Homes. Steve Kniffen, Palm Beach Sheriff's Office. Melissa Santoro, Legislative Assistant to Senator Jeff Clemens. Freddie Scott, Commissioner Abrams' Office. Joe Duffy, Delray Beach Fire Rescue. Felicia Goldstein, District Director, Congresswoman Frankel's Office. Mort Mazer, Sun Sentinel Forum Publications. Lieutenant Lori File, Palm Beach Sheriff's Office. Roseberry Raymond, Lake Worth Drainage District. Jenny Caesar, Congressman Lois Frankel's. S. Ferrer, Palm Beach Sheriff's Office. Jeff Calise, Major, Palm Beach Sheriff's Office. Kathleen Rhodes, Senator Rader's Office. Howie Zimmerman, Dorothy Jack's Property Appraiser's Office. Dana Ackerman White, Commissioner Dave Kerner's Office. Paula Rigoli, District 91 Secretary. Megan White, Administrative Assistant to Commissioner Berger. Andrea DeFonte, Palm Beach County Tax Collector Ann Gannon's Office. Leslie Schreiber, Palm Beach Sheriff's Office. Terry Mitzi, Senator Abruzzo's Office. Welcome all.
Okay, Captain. I don't like the way the mic.
Morning. Everybody hear me? Okay, I'm going to make it short because you guys are going to hear a lot about what we're doing here later. But I appreciate last time we came out and we talked about leaving guns in cars and gave out flyers. And we had a good response from that. I'm happy to say we haven't had one stolen out of a car since then, in our area at least. There have been more around the county though, so please get the word out to keep up with that. The other thing is the biggest trend, and I went over this last time, we had 3 last week. They're taking high-end cars out of neighborhoods that are gated because people think that nobody can get in there. It's real easy. They jump over the fence, they walk up to the car, they pull on the handle, it opens, they push the button, start it, and leave. So that's happening still. So please get the word out. Take the keys out of the car, the key fobs, lock them up. That way they can't just get them that easy. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Okay. Chief Doug McMinn, you here, Doug? There he is, all the way in the back. Standing near the young lady, that's where he is. Come on, Doug.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning.
So we've been a little busy this morning, just passing out some things. Delray Hospital did a really good job. A couple of months ago, they met with all the fire stations. They took some really high-quality pictures. These are the firefighter calendars, but I don't think they're the firefighter calendars that you might be used to seeing. Nonetheless, they are calendars. The fire department, now I can finally tell my wife I'm actually in a fire department calendar for the first time. I'm in one of those months with the rest of my staff. So we pass those out. We have some extras in the back as well. It's been an extremely busy month. We're really, one of the things that I was reminded of, even coming to work this morning, there was a multi-alarm structure fire right here in the city of Delray Beach. And I was reminded of the interoperability and the improvement in our communications and working together with the local cities. Because when the city of Delray Beach has a fire, like it had a commercial structure fire, they also, this was actually the second fire in one shift. They're using, we rely on each other, some of the county units to go to those fires, and then vice versa. So I was just reminded of the interoperability, the seamless transition, our unified terminology, and it really works very well. We had an opportunity to visit the command post, and we all use the same command systems, we use the same dispatch systems, so just hats off to our folks here from Delray Fire as well. We're kicking off the new program called the Getting to Know About CO, but I'm going to let Tony talk to you about this. The only thing I want to do is I want to just open it up with this. A few years ago, we had a carbon monoxide incident where the gentleman was deceased inside the home. I was touched incredibly because I was a captain on the ladder truck. I was on that scene that day. These are emotionally challenging calls. And on the wall of the garage door entering the threshold to the house, there was a couple of drawings made in crayon. Okay? And it says, "Grandpa, don't forget the car." There was a couple of those. And Grandpa was inside, and he was deceased. So I was troubled by that, and I said, man, if there was only a way that we could get that message, maybe to where the garage door button was. I don't know what it is, but out of sight, out of mind, you see something and you become desensitized to it. I think that we do that in life. We become desensitized. We normalize deviating from a safety measure, whether it's fire safety or leaving your car on in the garage or whatever have you. But we did come up, that's what spearheaded this little garage door sign. I'm going to let Tony talk to you about that. But I wanted to bring that personal sentiment to the campaign because it really is something that we started right here in Battalion 4, Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. Tony?
Yep. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for giving us time to speak. I'll be quick. I know, Bob, you guys have a big agenda. So, tacking on what Doug said, he probably doesn't give himself enough credit, but with Chief McGlynn, Commissioner Berger, and a lot of the people that you have in your area to get this thing done. On your desk when you came in was the pamphlet. So if you just want some information to read about there with the hazards in your home, how to take care of them, what to do about them, what to do in the event of emergency. So this is put together by Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, your local union, firefighters and paramedics of 2928, and the Board of County Commissioners from Palm Beach County all worked in conjunction to put this program on for you. With also that is the garage door button cover that Doug was talking about. So really quick on the back side of it. There's directions on the back, very simple, but just you fold it over. There's some double stick tape on the back that peels off. And this sits on the wall over your button. So when you walk in from the garage through the laundry room or whatever that is that gets you from your point of the garage to the point of your house, this reminds you to make sure that A, if your car is in the garage, your garage door is open. To also remember that B, we're shutting our car off before we go in the house, right? And lastly, one other thing, just remember if you have the keyless cars now, which are normal for everyone, just keep in the back of your mind, ladies especially, you have your purse, right? We open the door, we walk a step, we put it on the washer and dryer, we keep walking in the house. The only problem sometimes is the distance from the car to the key fob isn't far enough to shut the car off. Right, so the car is going to continue to run, so make sure you bring your purse all the way into the house and start putting it in the kitchen and not leaving it in that little pass-through for the keyless cars. Yeah? All right, so that's it for today for me. You good?
Yeah, that's good. There's a 30-second public safety announcement that our video department put together. I'll be sending that to Dr. Laura so she can send it out. And just one more really sincere gratitude to Mary Lou Berger, Commissioner Berger, was the mayor at the time that really spearheaded this project to public affairs. That's what really got it moving. So thank you, Mary Lou.
Thank you, Chief. We have with us today our Senator Kevin Rader. Senator, want to say something to the troops here? We don't get him here often. He's very busy here up in Tallahassee, trying to protect us. I assure you of that.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Lori and the board. I'm Senator Kevin Rader. I'm your new senator, your state senator for the area. If you live south of Atlantic, for the most part west of Military, you're in my district. If you're north of Atlantic or east of Military, then you are in Senator Jeff Clements' district. Just because we had new redistricting about it a few months ago, and just so you understand where you are. Jeff Clements is, you know what, if you make a cross at Military and Atlantic, I got the southwest quadrant, and Senator Clements has the north and the east. I'm not the best joke teller, but someone said to me that there's really no crosses at the intersection of Military and Atlantic. No crosses. Come on, I got a little better than that. You know, this session in Tallahassee, there's going to be, it's going to be very interesting because half the Senate is new. You know, people like Senator Sachs, who was there for 6-7 years, who did a great job, worked on many different forms of legislation, isn't there anymore. Half the Senate, 20 new members are in there. The Senate is 25 to 15. 25 Republicans, 15 Democrats. I'm one of the 15 Democrats. And of the 15 Democrats, 11 are new. So we have a very new Senate. A lot are coming from the House. I came from the House. I served for 6 years in the state legislature. And in the House, about a third of the members are new. And it's 79 to 41. 79 Republicans, 41 Democrats with a Republican governor, as we know. So I'm just giving you the facts. It's not partisan in any nature. This isn't a partisan group. We're going to have a really interesting budget because on the House side, the new Speaker created new rules on how to get a budget request. If you wanted to increase what the state is giving your organization, you have to file a bill, and you have to not only defend the increase, but you actually lose or put in jeopardy your recurring dollars. So if you're the Jewish Federation and you're JARC, and you get $180,000 thanks to Senator Representative Abruzzo or Senator Sachs, who got that appropriation for many years, that $180,000, if you wanted to up it to $220,000, just due to the greater need of Holocaust survivors, due to more people in the community, you would put the 180 in jeopardy to ask for the 220 for all the services they do. So it's common knowledge that, you know what, let's just not ask for the extra money, let's just keep the 180. On the flip side, the Senate, where I'm at, we don't have that rule. So a lot of the appropriations are going to be going through the Senate side to put together the budget. And what's most likely going to happen is the last 2 weeks of session, when we have conferencing, the Senate will have a much different budget than the House, and there will be a lot of give and take. And if the give and take doesn't work, then the 60-day session that typically ends the first week of May will probably be prolonged. There's a lot of issues that go on in Tallahassee: juvenile justice, you know, everything with insurance, healthcare, education, a lot of issues. But there's one in the weeds that I want to bring up, and I called Dr. Vineker yesterday, and I talked to Cobra, and I talked to Boca Community Council. I just asked Commissioner Berger what she thought. I called former Commissioner Aronson. There's a bill on Tuesday, my Transportation Committee, and it's the repeal of the red light cameras. The repeal. Okay? In 2010, the state of Florida voted for to allow red light cameras to operate as long as the cities and the counties voted it in. So Palm Beach County, along with a lot of other cities in Palm Beach, voted it in. We didn't mandate it in Tallahassee, we just allowed it. There have been court challenges currently in Palm Beach. I'm not sure if there's any city, and certainly the county doesn't. Is there any city in Palm? I don't think there is, that allows red light cameras to operate. But the question is should the legislature repeal it so no city and no county in the state can even allow it to be the case? And I'm going to tell you, you know, this is a kind of issue. It's not partisan in nature. It could be on both sides, you know, you could be for it, you could be against it. I can show you statistics on both sides. I can show you statistics that it's reduced accidents, and I can show you statistics that now the accidents have kind of increased. I can, personal experience, most people do not like getting a ticket 2 weeks later once they've gone through a red light or they get something in the mail. It's very difficult to fight because the proof is against you. But I'm going to be here in the meeting. I do have a 10:45, so I got to scoot to East Del Rey. But if you want to come up to me, talk to me about this, please. Call my office. I saw Kathleen Rowe, my aide, is here. You can find me. You can call your leaders. But I need to know because Tuesday's the vote. And I'm going to tell you, I don't really know where
We're going to get a vote.
Okay, good.
Okay. You all heard what the senator said. If you're like me, you found yourself speeding up to make the light behave that didn't change while you're at an intersection. I think it's a detriment to good driving. And everybody who approves of the senator voting for rescinding that there, will you please raise your hand? Okay?
Rescinding, taking it back.
To repeal it. To repeal it.
Eliminating red light
They all
cameras.
raise it, yes.
Eliminating red light cameras.
That would be voting for the bill, voting for the repeal.
For the repeal.
Okay.
Repeal the red light camera.
Okay.
Well, just to be fair,
Just be
let's-
fair.
The other way.
I was just saying, raise your hand if you would, though. Raise your hand if you don't want the repeal. You want to keep red light cameras. You believe they create a safety.
Thank you, man. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. You can easily call my office if you have a question.
We have another guest who we don't see very often, Commissioner Melissa McKinney. Are you here? Would you like to say something, Commissioner? Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. I promise I won't talk as long as Senator Rader since I'm not on the agenda. Good morning. I am one of your county commissioners. I represent District 6, which starts just west of Boynton Beach Boulevard where no people live. I go all the way up to North Lake and the Bee Line and all the way out through the Glades. So it's a significantly large district with a lot of diverse needs. I want to thank you all for electing my colleague, Commissioner Mary Lou Berger. She's been absolutely wonderful to work with. I'm learning so much from her. She knows everything there is to know about land use and growth management. We work together not only in the county, but at our state association and our national association, trying to find good model programs across the country that we can come back and implement here and help save taxpayer dollars. And she's an absolutely wonderful colleague, and I love working with her. So thank you, Mary Lou. I came down today because I noticed your agenda and that you're going to be talking about human trafficking, and that is an issue that I've been working on since about 2006 with the Junior League, which is a volunteer organization I've been a part of for about 22 years now. And through the good work of former state representative Dave Kerner, now my colleague also on the county commission, we've been able to work together to pass laws at the state and pass ordinances locally to try to raise awareness on this issue. And I spoke on it last night to the Medical Society. There's a misperception that human trafficking victims are coming in from overseas. While that is happening, most of our trafficking victims are foster children. And so it's very important that we raise awareness for everybody to know how to recognize the signs and symptoms of human trafficking. We just closed out National Human Trafficking Awareness Month. We are coming into Super Bowl weekend, which is one of the largest trafficking events in the country. I'll be doing a training tomorrow at the Emergency Operations Center with a lot of our adult entertainment industry representatives there so that their employees know how to recognize it if it's in their facilities. So, and I invite anybody here who wants to attend. That's at 2 p.m. tomorrow. We should be done by 4. And thank you all. This is one of the best groups in the county. I brag about Delray Alliance and Cobra all the time on how to do effective advocacy. You all are wonderful. You have a great commissioner. If I can ever do anything, feel free to reach out. Thank you.
And last, I saved the best for last, our own Commissioner, Mary Lou Berger, Commissioner. our one and only commissioner. We only have one commissioner.
That's right. All of the alliances in my borders, I think, where's Freddie? Are there any alliance associations in District 4? Couple of them, maybe? Yes. Okay, not much. So Commissioner Abrams and I take care of you. Anyway, good morning, Alliance. Good morning. Oh, that's the best one you've ever done for me. Best one yet. I won't have to make you do it the second time. This morning I have good news, and I have a little bit of bad news. So, who wants to hear the good news first? Yes.
Yeah.
Who wants to hear the bad news first?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a majority, but I'm going with the good news. The long-awaited traffic signal on Hagen and Gateway has now been approved. Yay! Now for the bad news. Where's Lexington Club? Does Lexington Club have somebody here today? How long did it take once we okayed your signal to get the signal? I think it was like a year and a half or something. Yes. That's my little bit of bad news, but I want to explain why. The reason is we have to get the equipment, we have to design the traffic signal, we have to order the boxes that control the traffic signal, we have to make sure we have the proper right-of-way there. Where are we going to put the boxes? Because they're pretty big aluminum boxes that you've probably seen at other intersections, and you can't put them where it might be in the line of sight of traffic, so you have to do that. We also work with the sheriff's office to make sure that we're putting everything where they would need it, because they're the ones that do the enforcement on the traffic signal laws. So it takes some time. In addition to that, you know those great big mast arms that you see? We use those now for most of the traffic signals. We don't do the old wooden poles and wires too much anymore. And we don't manufacture that stuff. We have to order it. We don't just keep those things laying around in a yard somewhere. So because we need to know the height, every height could be different because of the road situation and the driver situation. So that's part of the reason that it's going to take some time. But it has been approved by county engineering. I got word yesterday afternoon about that. And it was a long road. Those are federal regulations, but we finally met the federal regulations. So I'm very, very happy to announce that at least it's approved. And when you're getting frustrated, just talk to the guys from Lexington Club, because I suffered with them for at least a year and a half until we got that one up. And when the gateway signal goes up, I promise that Captain DiBernardino and I and the people from Oriole Villages and the people from Bellagio will just all go out there and have a big party, because it'll be time to celebrate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have one other piece of business before I turn the meeting over to Dr. Laurie. February is this month. March is our election for the board of the Delray Alliance. We have 5 seats up for election. I spoke to the board members who are currently in those seats, and they have indicated that they will be running. But we are open for any other volunteers who want to put their name in for an election for the board of directors. You all know how to reach me. Call me, send me an email, send me a letter, any way at all, and give me your name and a little bit of your background, and we'll, when we have the election in March, you'll have your chance to speak to the group. And so with that, and I do want to thank the commissioner, the board members who have served this long term, and they do a fabulous job. They work hard at it, and we do the best we can for our communities. And anybody coming, I assume will be glad to try and do that also. So with that, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Dr. Laurie Vinegar, and I'm going to go suppress my weary bones.
Great, President Bob, thank you. He works hard constantly, lots of phone calls we get. Just a few things. Karen Brill, welcome. She came in as well, and Mike Pratt from the Property Appraiser's Office, Christine Shaw from the Palm Beach County Legislative Delegation, and then also Senator Rader's assistant, who maybe could write a little more clearly. Office of Representative Rader, I see, but can we know your name? And I need to get your card too. Okay, so just come up to me after. Thank you. And we always have a sponsor for our breakfast. So our sponsor is going to give a little commercial before we call up our whole panel here today. So if we can start to have Kent Services, please come here, and just 1 minute, just a few announcements. One thing about our HOA board certification and COA board certification course, March 30th, it's getting filled up, 10:30 and 12:30 times. And I'm taking those reservations. It's in the newsletter that you receive either by mail or by email. And remember our Wellness Screening Expo this week on Friday with the Delray Medical Center. We partner with them. And if you need extras to put out in your clubhouses, I have extras. You can come and see me. And the newly elected officials of Palm Beach County is in the center of that newsletter. And one thing that we know, we respond to our membership. Someone last month asked for the garbage or old signs on the road. How do we handle that as community activists? And here it is, right in the newsletter. Commissioner Berger, thank you for giving us that information, along with Megan White helping out with that. And
they can still make an appointment for blood test.
And you can still make appointments for blood tests this Friday too. There's an 800 number, 800-897-9789. Before we call our panel up here, we have a commercial from our sponsor, Kent Services. Please help me welcome Richard.
Good morning, how are you? Thank you, Alliance of Delray, for having us here on this wonderful breakfast. First of all, I want to just get a quick raise of hands on how many people have heard of the company Kent Services or Kent Security. Okay, good. Kent's been in business for over 34 years. The company first started off providing guard services and quickly has become a national leader, not only providing guard service solutions, but technology solutions, for example, access control, video analytics, biometrics, et cetera. I want to really enforce that because that is very key in today's industry. Most of our competitors realistically only provide guard service solutions. With that said, I want to keep it short because I got a minute. I do want to say one thing before I exit the podium is that we really value the board's decision and the communities and the services that we provide. With Kings Point Blessing, we were able to, I was able to get their blessing to kind of talk about, how good of a service Kent is providing in that community. And it all stems from providing top-notch quality service, building long-term partnerships, having a team of individuals, whereas all the way from the bottom, from guards to rovers to assistant directors of securities, all reporting up to the board. It's all about a team. And I see Lori coming up, and I appreciate your time, and thank you very much.
Thanks for breakfast.
Thank you very much. Well, we're going to start the program now without any further delay. Can we please have our panel members step up on stage? And I know State Attorney Arenberg is here. Yes, great. And we have Captain Eric Coleman here. We have Captain Stephen Stravelli. We have former Senator Maria Sachs. And we have, let's see, other people in the audience. And I think Leslie is the sergeant.
No, I don't see.
Okay. We have a good panel here for a lot of lively discussion. And okay, they're introducing themselves to each other. That's great. Okay. Well, we've all heard of it. We know we have a sober home issue here. Just to let you know, we do have Peter Hayden from WLRN News here today, and he asked to record some of this here. So, no objection to that, right? Because we're live streamed anyway. It goes live stream to our Alliance channel, and that will also be able to be viewed. We have people watching right now. Our interest, the people interested here, go well beyond this room. They're watching right now, live streaming. What I told the speakers today is that I wasn't going to introduce each one of them and say anything about them. We're going to start with State Attorney Arenberg, and each person is going to first take the microphones and explain who they are, why they're here, and their history and interest in the sober homes and/or human trafficking. And I asked State Attorney Arenberg to sort of lead the discussion, to follow it through so that we understand what this is all about, where it's occurring, how our law enforcement is handling it, how our state attorney's office is handling it, and the impact on society. So he's going to take the lead on it and follow it to make sure everybody can speak equal amounts of time and tell what they need to tell us. So if you can start, and if you'd like to sit there, you can move it right down, or you can stand. Go ahead. Or you can stand.
Well, thank you. Well, good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Lori. I'm Dave Arenberg, State Attorney for Palm Beach County, and it's an honor to be here before you to discuss one of our very top priorities in our office and a top priority for law enforcement. That is the abuses within the drug treatment and sober home industries. You have seen that we are in the midst of a heroin epidemic, and this was something that was predictable, it was preventable, but government doesn't do a great job of preventing and anticipating. It does a better job of reacting after a crisis has occurred. Because when we went after the pill mills, when we shut down those awful pill mills that were killing 7 people a day, that were on every street corner, in 2011 there were more pain clinics in Palm Beach County than McDonald's in Palm Beach County. When we shut them down, people went from one opiate, because that was an opiate they were giving out, oxycodone, to another, heroin. Heroin has become a cheaper alternative. It has become even deadlier than the heroin that we knew from years ago. And it's becoming much more accessible, meaning that you don't have to just find it in a seedy alley and then inject it using needles and tourniquets. Nowadays, you can snort it, you can swallow it, you can inject it, you can still inject it, but you can get it into your system in a variety of ways that it was not available in the past. In addition, today's heroin is much more deadly than the heroin that we knew from years ago. Nowadays, heroin is spiked with fentanyl or carfentanil, which is an elephant tranquilizer. This is some cheap, powerful painkillers that come in from China that have flooded the market, and users don't know that the heroin that they're using contains this stuff. It gives them a big high, it's much cheaper, and it often kills them. And the heroic efforts of our firefighters and first responders, law enforcement officers, have saved so many lives, because in Palm Beach County, there are more than 20 overdoses a day from opiates. In our county, more than 20 people will overdose today, and a little bit more than 1 per day will die. But the fact that so many lives are saved is because of the efforts of our first responders, who are equipped with Narcan in many cases to bring people back to life. So to give just one more bit of this, a lot of this problem is being enabled by the growth of sober homes owned by unscrupulous individuals who use these places not as a way to help people get healthy, but as a way to exploit them for financial gain. And you see them popping up everywhere. The mayor of Delray Beach said that there are at least 800 sober homes in Delray Beach alone. We don't know how many sober homes there are because there is no required registration. There is no regulation of them. There's some voluntary guidelines, but there's no mandatory regulation or registration. And cities that have attempted to regulate them have been threatened with a lawsuit. In fact, Boca Raton has been sued and had to pay out $3 million for taking action against them, because sober homes are just houses. They're group homes designed to have people at the lowest stage of their lives, people who have come out of recovery, drug recovery, live in a group setting and hopefully learn from each other and provide each other with a safe, supportive environment where they can get back into society. Sober homes come after drug treatment. So what happens is someone, in theory, this is what happens. Someone has a drug addiction, usually heroin or some opiate, oxycodone. They go into inpatient recovery. Insurance pays for it. After the 30 or 60 days are up and insurance ends, then they go into a sober home where they live with others in a drug-free environment. And while they're there, they go into outpatient treatment through a separate facility where they have group counseling and drug testing, and eventually they get healthy and back into society. That's in theory. In practice, it's different. And to illustrate that, I have a skit that I want to do. So I would like, while I'm going to turn the mic over to my friends and colleagues here, and Maria Sachs can tell you also how sober homes can play into human trafficking, which is going on. But while they're speaking, if you can have, Dr. Laurie, maybe you can find some volunteers. I need maybe 4 volunteers who are hams, who are wannabe actors. We're going to be on WLRN, so if you want to be discovered by Hollywood, Florida that is, please volunteer with Dr. Laurie. I want to illustrate what's going on in practice within the treatment industry. And remember, we're talking about the rogue elements, the unscrupulous players. We're not talking about everyone. We're talking about people who are giving the treatment industry a bad name, and that's who we're going after with our task force. That's what we're trying to clean up. Those are the arrests we're making, and that's the difference we're making in Palm Beach County. We're doing something in our county that other counties are not doing. We are the most aggressive county out of rooting out abuses in the treatment industry and the sober home industry. And the state of Florida thought that this was just a Palm Beach County problem. It is not. It's a statewide problem. But as we shut down the abuses in this industry in Palm Beach County, it's becoming more of a statewide problem. Because what happens? A lot of these places are leaving the county and going elsewhere. And that's why the state of Florida needs to have a statewide response. But I'm here today on a stage with people who have helped deliver a countywide response that makes us the leader, not just in the state against this, but in the country. So with that, I want to turn it over to my good friend, former State Senator Maria Sachs, to give you an overview. And then after everyone is done speaking, we'll do our skit, and then we can take our questions, or your questions. So, Senator Sachs.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And you know, we're going to have to call you not just state attorney, but director, producer, and maybe main star. Good morning, everybody. And I want to thank this organization, the Alliance, and Bob Schulbaum, and especially Dr. Vinegar, for putting this on. The last time that I was at a panel discussion like this here, we were discussing cannabis. And so she is always, Dr. Vinegar and Bob Schulbaum, and the leaders of the Alliance, you're always on the cutting edge. Because right after that panel discussion, we passed medical marijuana in the state. And Palm Beach County, of all the 67 counties, had the highest yes vote for medical marijuana. So I think today is an entree to how we can stop the number one cash business in the world. Some people will think that it's drugs. Some people say, no, it's guns. No, it's people. It's people. It's doing business with people. And what kinds of people are most vulnerable? Are children. Girls and boys. So this is an issue on human trafficking I've been involved with for many, many years on a global area, global scope. And I worked in the legislature to try to bring the state of Florida into line with what we can do here in Florida. Because look at the geographic shape of Florida. We're so porous. We have ports all over the place. Ports in Tampa, Jacksonville, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Palm Beach. So I decided to step aside from politics and get involved in real politics, which is the politics of helping to stem this flow. Now, at first I thought, well, I'll look at the world, you know, Thailand and Central America. No, no, no. It's right here. It's right here in Palm Beach County is where we have a lot of human trafficking. Oh, how could that happen? It can't happen in Palm Beach. We're a beautiful county, and we are. And we have amazing elected officials in the county and in our state governments, city governments. And we have an amazing state attorney who recognizes this issue. We need a little more. We need a little more because what our state attorney is doing, and he's getting a lot of help from Attorney General Pam Bondi's office as well as from the state. But he's not getting enough when it comes to human trafficking issues within sober homes. So let's get surgical. Let's get right into this. What happens in a sober home with human trafficking? The vast majority of girls who are sold as slaves are here in Florida, and they're local. Now, let's take you back to when you were a kid, 14, 15 years old. And you thought, gee, I'm going to run. Every girl has thought once in her life, and maybe boys too, I'm going to run away from home. I've had it with my parents. Well, when I ran away, I ran to the park, you know. It was about 2 blocks away. But kids today don't do that. They get on a train, they get on a Greyhound bus, and where do they go? They go to the beaches in Florida. They run away to here. Money runs out. They're not going to call home for more money. And some kindly lady, kindly looking lady, drives by and says, honey, you hungry? Come on in, I'll get you something to eat. And then that's the beginning of the end for that runaway. So in many of these homes where girls will come to get help for drug addiction, when the money runs out, they're going to pay with their bodies. And that's exactly what happens. I'll give you a specific example that our state attorney was very instrumental in stopping. That's Kenneth Chapman. He was charged and arrested for operating an illegal sober home. But there was something in the back room that we found out later. It was a room that had been boarded up so that you couldn't see out the windows. The door was boarded, and there was a young girl who couldn't pay her bill. And she was being pimped out. So I don't want to go into all the little details because it can be, it's not pretty, it's not nice. But what we can do as Palm Beach County good citizens is we can help stop the trafficking, the slavery of these girls and boys here in Palm Beach. So that's what I'm doing with my foundation. I'm going to be working with law enforcement. Started out as a prosecutor. So I have no qualms about going in and picking out these bad guys. Now I'm going to tell you real quickly in 2 minutes how we're going to fund this. Because you know we have no money in this state. And there ain't going to be any money for mental rehabilitation for these victims. This is what I thought we're going to do. Rico. You know Rico. Now, he's not the guy that you buy strawberries from. Rico is a great guy because he is got the name of the racketeering statute that was started with the federal government, and now we have it in the state. What that means is this. Buddy, you're making money on this sober home and it's illegal, and you've got girls there of human trafficking, guess what? We're not only going to put you in jail, but we're going to take that lousy little 2-bit motel you're using, or that house in Delray or Boca, and we're going to give it to the state. And the state's going to change that into a rehabilitation place called Sanctuary. Make them pay where it hurts. So that's why I call it justice and sanctuary. Justice for the bad guys and sanctuary for the victims. And they should pay. So I want to thank you at the Alliance for allowing me a few minutes to talk about this. I want to thank our state attorney and all his staff for what they do in making sure that we put an end to these sober homes. And I want to ask for your help. I passed out a little thing, a little pass out. It's got my number on it and an email. If you want to help as a volunteer, I need you. We need you to put a stop to this terrible crime. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. I'm Eric Coleman. I'm the captain in charge of the Sheriff's Narcotics Division, and I've held that position for the last 6 years. And unfortunately, sometimes I feel like I'm playing a constant game of whack-a-mole. Our state attorney mentioned the problem we had in beginning in 2009, and which improved significantly up through about 2012, and that was our pill mill capital of the world. Back then, we had 98 of the top 100 dispensing physicians were right here in the state of Florida. Pills that were purchased here, over 10 million of them in Palm Beach County, at $2 a piece, made their way to New England, where they were sold for $30 a piece. Then we moved on to the synthetic marijuana, the bath salts, the flocka, and now we're in this heroin crisis, which is greatly increased due to the sober home issue. We're attracting folks from all over this country to come here for treatment, but there's really no treatment going on, as Mr. Ehrenberg said. And I caution that, I won't call it heroin. The heroin epidemics that many of you who lived in New York City witnessed in the 70s, that type of heroin is not what we're dealing with now. The heroin a few years ago, most of it came to our country through Mexico and South America. That's where it was harvested. It's a very labor-intensive process. You must go into the fields and take a poppy bulb and score it and milk it to get the juice to then continue the process to make the heroin. Well, somewhere along the lines, someone figured out that there was a better way or a cheaper way. So the heroin that we see now is partially heroin sometimes, but more often than not it's the fentanyl and carfentanil. And that comes into our system in two different ways. One way is I could go on the internet right now and I could order over 2 pounds of fentanyl for $6,000 from China. From that I could then cut it and probably end up with a profit of well over $100,000. The other way it comes in is the Mexicans have figured out, obviously, that it's much easier to get this raw product, fentanyl, from these labs in China, where it's not highly regulated, cut their product with it, which increases their profit margin tremendously. Now we have some folks, some active cases we're working where they are taking the fentanyl, cutting it, putting it into a pill press, and selling what are fentanyl pills is actually oxycodones. And you can't tell by looking at them. So this is a very dangerous situation for these folks. That's why our overdoses are through the roof. Just at the Sheriff's Office, we've responded in 2016 to over 1,300 overdoses. That's where people had to seek medical treatment and were actually transported to the hospital. Of those, at least 242 didn't make it. Of those 1,300 overdoses, over 970 of them were 35 years of age or younger, which is really sad. The fire department, I believe they Narcan, or that's what they use to revive these folks when they do overdose, spent over $100,000 to bring them back. As I told you, we look at all these overdose cases in my unit to try to glean as much information as we can to try to hold these dealers responsible and ultimately work our way up the chain to the distributors and wholesalers and ultimately back to Mexico or wherever the source country may be. One way we do that is that every person who overdoses in Palm Beach County, we take their biographical information, chart where it happened, how it happened, the circumstances. We also look at their phone records to see who they've been communicating with, because that's where most drug transactions are done now. It's not, with the exception of a few places, most people aren't standing on the corner anymore. Most of it's done by text. Meet me here at a gas station or parking lot, and that's where those transactions take place. So we're exploiting that information to try to identify the dealers and target them. And the state has been very good with us about when we do identify these folks who are tied to these overdoses, they hold them accountable. So far, we've gotten about 25 of them. We've also gotten a gentleman on a federal charge of causing the death of a young man from Wellington. He's serving 30 years for that. So that's what we're doing on the enforcement end a little bit. I did want to tell you about, as I was looking at these records and preparing a yearly report, I said to my analyst, I said, who was the youngest person to die in our jurisdiction in 2016 of an overdose? And his name was Joey. He had just turned 19. He came to us from Long Island, New York. So I called his dad, and I wanted to hear his story, because, and I'll tell you why. You'll see why after I read the report. Put a tear in your eye. I'm a father as well. Well, Joey started using drugs at 16, marijuana. Then he moved to pills, and he ultimately started using heroin up north. He overdosed in a wooded area with some friends. They brought him back to life and put him in a hospital. At that time, there were no beds available in the New York area for him to seek treatment. His parents had good insurance. So they reached out to an organization up there that helps with this issue, helps to find him treatment centers. And they did send him here to South Florida for treatment. It was thankfully one of the good treatment centers. And he was successful, but he didn't finish the whole program. He was here for 3 months, and he moved out of the program. He called his father on October 19th and said he wanted to come home. His father, through a mutual friend, set up to pay for him to stay in a kind of a rundown hotel, unfortunately, on Lake Worth Road. And the very next morning, he called a flight to come here and pick up his son. When he got here on October 20th, in the afternoon, he went to go get his son. He'd been trying to reach him on text. He couldn't. And when we entered the hotel room, he called the police because there was no answer. They found Joey, and he was deceased. And that's Joey's story can be told hundreds of times over here in Palm Beach County. We've had mothers and daughters OD within weeks of each other. We've had one gentleman in Delray Beach who's been brought back 8 times with Narcan. So this is probably one of the most addictive substances known to man. And we're in for a long fight with this one. It's going to take a lot of people working together. And hopefully you can help our voices be heard up in Tallahassee. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Steve Stravelli. I'm the captain of the Sheriff's Special Investigations Division, that investigation otherwise known as Special Victims Unit. We handle the cases involving child abuse, neglect, as well as sexual assault and battery cases. A lot's been spoken about human trafficking. What exactly is human trafficking? Human trafficking is transporting, soliciting, recruiting, harboring, and otherwise maintaining another person for the purposes of exploitation. What do we have here in Palm Beach County? I would say the majority of our human trafficking cases involve using another for purposes of sexual entertainment. This means prostitution. How do people fall victim to this? Mostly drugs, so it ties well into Captain Coleman's side of the house. However, there are other cases that involve other types of manipulation. These are cases that are domestic, as well as people that are brought into the country from human smuggling. What are we doing about the problem at the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office? We've recently received a grant. We've been the recipient of a grant that has allowed us to put in place a human trafficking unit. I was going to have the sergeant of the unit here with us. However, after second thought, I chose to not allow him here because we're trying to keep his and his detectives' appearances from being public. Trying to get them to do undercover work because one of the major problems with human trafficking is the actual reporting of these cases. Believe it or not, victims don't come forward. They don't want to be, they don't want to upset what's going on presently in their lives, or maybe they don't realize what's going on in their lives. So we're going to have to go into the community and find the victims by doing prostitution stings, where we can possibly uncover a juvenile that way, or other types of covert operations that we intend to put in place. But we're headed in the right direction. And one of the major things that we can do as citizens is recognize the problem, recognize that it exists, and how to identify victims of human trafficking. Things that you could look for. Unaccompanied minor at night in a place where they may or may not or should not be. This would be a key to look for. A person that is fearing another, you can just sometimes tell the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. A lot of times when you see a person that's being almost physically dragged around, not able to speak because somebody jumps in and speaks for that person, this could be a signal. Somebody who is speaking, this goes a lot for like hospital workers and so forth, somebody is speaking as if they're being coached, saying only things that they were taught to say. Signs of malnourishment, signs of injuries, cigarette burns, bruises, other signs that they have been possibly even tortured. Wearing minimal clothes, dirty clothes, almost appearing homeless, scantily clad. You know, the biggest thing is somebody who just has a look of fear on their face. These persons will come and a lot of times appear in the form of a prostitute. How to tell the difference between somebody who's voluntarily acting as a prostitute versus somebody who's being manipulated into it. That's where the challenges are. That's where they lie for us at the Sheriff's Office, because we have to be able to determine and make a case that involves somebody else using that person and manipulating that person. We at the Sheriff's Office, we take this very seriously. We've got this task force in place, and we are intending to work very closely with members of the federal government, FBI, as well as the State Attorney's Office, and I believe that in Palm Beach County this year we will be making several cases, several arrests, and we will see a major impact. And I appreciate any information that you guys could offer, and we are in the process of establishing a hotline for human trafficking, but in the meantime, until we get that up and running, 688-3000, 561-688-3000 is the Sheriff's Office phone number, and you can say that you have a tip to report to the Human Trafficking Unit, and you'll get somebody to speak with you at that point. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Captain. All right, so we have our volunteers, Dr. Laurie.
They're right there.
All right, so come on up. Now, we're going to illustrate to you what is going on in practice in the treatment and drug in the sober home industries. Now, there are legitimate sober homes and treatment facilities, but unfortunately, what you're about to see happens way too often. It's given the entire industry a bad name, and it has resulted in increased heroin use and deaths. More than 75% of our private pay individuals who are in treatment come from out of state. So we are attracting the rest of the state, the rest of the country's most vulnerable population of substance abuse with substance abuse disorders. So they are coming down here, and too often they leave in body bags. And I want you to see what has been happening. So why don't you be my star?
Oh, sounds good.
Okay? All right, what is your name?
Judy.
Hi, Judy. Okay, Judy, you're the star. Why don't you have a seat right here? Okay? All right. Now, every great production needs a good supporting cast. Are you up to the task?
Yes.
All right. You will be, okay, but you definitely put on your glasses. Okay, all right. All right. Seat on the next page, okay? And then you T. Your T. First the E, okay? You're dead, okay? Okay, you are the star. You're going to be B. B is okay. All right. This is your mic. I will hand you the mic once we're done. Okay. You all know your parts. There's no rehearsal here in Hollywood. Okay. This is the major leagues. You're being videotaped. So are you prepared? All right. Okay, so the scene is, what do you want your name to be in the show?
Judy.
Judy, okay, we'll do it, Judy. All right, Judy is suffering from a drug addiction. She lives, I believe, in upstate New York. She sees an ad on TV. You've seen these ads many times. She sees this ad, and we'll start it there. The ad starts. This is the TV ad. All right, here we go.
Are you suffering from a drug addiction? Take control of your life and get clean. Call 1-800-GET-CLEAN and talk to a professional who's been in your shoes. Call now, and we'll find the best facility to make you healthy again. We will fix you. Hurry and call now before this commercial ends, or else. Did I mention that we love you here at 1-800-GET-CLEAN?
Okay. So Judy calls 1-800-GET-CLEAN.
Hi. Okay.
Hello, 1-800-GET-CLEAN.
Hi. I saw your ad. Okay.
Turn it on.
Okay. Hi. I saw your ad and I want to get clean. Can I talk to a professional?
You're talking to him.
Okay, well, I need help to overcome my drug addiction. It's heroin. I live in upstate New York and would like to go someplace nearby, please.
All right, well, no problem. Now that I've professionally assessed your needs, I have determined that you'll do best at a place called Happy Paradise Rehab in Delray Beach, Florida.
But I live in upstate New York. I've never been to Florida.
The best rehab facilities are in Delray Beach. What's the weather up there near you?
Today's high is about 20 degrees.
Exactly. It's 80 degrees down here. Happy Paradise will be sending you a free plane ticket. Just give me your insurance number and everything will be taken care of. Pack your bags. You're going to sunny Florida. Trust me, I'm a professional. So, 30 to 60 days later, after she goes through Happy Paradise Rehab, inpatient rehab, she is at a coffee shop on Atlantic Avenue with her bags and calling her mother on the phone.
So yeah, Ma, I just got out of rehab. I love it down here. I don't want to go back to 20-degree weather. I know I have no money, no job, no home, and an itch for heroin, but I was given a list of sober homes to call. I hear they'll let me live there for free.
Hey man, I just overheard your conversation. Don't go to those lame sober homes. I've got the best one ever for you. It's a 4-bedroom house overlooking the canal, the ocean, in Delray Beach. It's co-ed, and everyone else is a recovering heroin addict just like you. Here's the best part. They'll pay you $50 a week to live there, and after you stay for a month, they'll give you a free scooter to get around town.
Don't listen to him. I have a house that will pay you $100 a week and a licensed massage therapist on premises.
Hey buddy, you need to hire me. I'm an agent for people like you. I can negotiate the best deal for you from all these sober homes. You're a hot commodity. With my help, you're going places.
And C. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Well done. Well done. Well done. That was well done. Thank you, Judy. And thank you, everyone. Now, what you saw up here, and yeah, feel free, by the way, if you do receive any offers, we get a cut, okay? We get. Now, what you saw here goes on all the time. You had someone who has substance abuse disorder call up a hotline. That hotline may have a slick ad of a doctor saying, call us, we're professionals. In reality, they're just telemarketers. They're getting paid by the sober homes or the treatment centers, whoever pays them, to market their product. It's usually the treatment centers. So that hotline then sends the caller to the treatment center who's paying them. Remember, this person has a drug addiction. It's not getting diagnosed or evaluated by a professional. There's no license involved. There's no certification. It's just a telemarketer. Thinks he's getting the doctor that he sees on TV. No. So Judy is sent down to Delray Beach, given a free plane ticket. That is illegal. You're not allowed to provide benefits like that. A free plane ticket to come on down to go into this facility. Because of the Affordable Care Act and the Mental Health Parity Act, her insurance covers all this stuff, and it covers it generously. So Judy is on her parents' policy till the age of 26, and behavioral health, drug addiction is covered very well under these policies. So she goes into inpatient treatment. After 30 or 60 days, when the policy runs out, she has nowhere to go, so she finds a sober home. The sober homes usually cost about $200 a week, but the sober home will waive the fees, will waive the rent. In fact, some sober homes will pay you to live there. Some sober homes will offer you incentives to live there. Bicycles, scooters, cigarettes, co-ed facilities, massages. We're talking about human trafficking. Well, they lure you in there. You get in there, and then a van picks you up every day to take you to the testing facility, the outpatient facility. The outpatient facility makes a killing because it bills insurance for all the drug testing. A drug test that may cost you or me $10 at Walgreens will be billed to insurance for thousands of dollars each time. And that's why each individual is seen as a gold mine. They're not seen as someone who needs help in the lowest stages of their lives. They're seen as someone who can be exploited for money. So they go into this outpatient center. The outpatient center pays money to the sober home. In fact, we have heard stories where the outpatient centers will go into the sober homes and look at the individuals in the sober homes and say, hey, all right, like a bidding war. I'll give you $1,000 for her. I'll give you $500 for him. And this is what's going on because each patient is worth so much money when they bill insurance for the drug testing. Now keep in mind the sober homes are unregulated because they do not provide any treatment. It's just a house. It's just a landlord in the house, and anyone can own one. So the sober home is getting money from the treatment centers, from the marketers. They're getting money from all these different sources, and that's why you see so many pop up, because it's easy money. By the way, all of these kickbacks, all of these payments, the bicycles, the free rent, all illegal. All illegal. And that's what we are going after, the illegal patient brokering. So what happens after Judy gets through with all the drug testing and has been in the sober home for 6 months and the insurance runs out there because eventually it's going to run out? Well, if Judy is either sober or it's not working and goes back into rehab and the cycle begins anew. What happens if Judy is sober? All right, now you're out on the street, Judy. Go find a place to live, go find a job. Some unscrupulous sober homeowners and treatment providers will give Judy drugs again. Get back in the cycle. You can start billing insurance again. You can get free rent eventually, get benefits, just relapse. And this cycle begins anew, over and over again. And this is what's happening. Instead of the decisions being made by medical professionals for the benefit of the individual to get that person healthy, it's being made for cash. Well-intentioned federal laws have enabled this through generous insurance benefits, through the Fair Housing Act, which is a well-intentioned law, through the Americans with Disabilities Act, a well-intentioned law. Cities, because of those acts, are limited as to regulating these sober homes. So there's a lot that can be done at the federal, state, and local level to help fix this situation. It was preventable, it was not inevitable, and it is fixable. And that's why we want to let you know about this today, because this is a very top priority for us, for our county, and it will be for Florida and the country. So thank you all very much for listening. I would love to take your questions, and we'll give it to the whole panel.
Yes, we can have, if somebody would like to come up and ask a question, you can come right here, go right around this way. Now here's, I just have a question for either Captain Coleman or Captain Stravelli. as civic activists and also as a neighbor to a sober home possibly, how do you handle the neighbors when you go in there with your guns drawn, I guess, how do you do it? How do you take down a sober home? Can one of you respond to that, and or the human trafficking issue? And then how do you protect the people around it because they're living so close to others? So what is that community interaction? Can you, well, yeah, I'd like to hear from the sheriff there.
Okay.
Sheriff's office.
Yeah, it is challenging to live next to a sober home, I would imagine. Fortunately, I do not. But I have a very strong HOA, and I think the HOAs are a sober home's worst enemy. Because state and local laws cannot address a lot of their issues, but HOAs can. They have a little more latitude in some of those areas, and those pesky rules get in the way. The sober homes are, the most profitable solution is that they seek out those multi-family residences. That's why they're so popular in areas like Lake Worth, Boynton Beach, and Delray. A lot of the old mom and pop hotels that were built here in the 60s and 70s have been converted. But it's a difficult situation to live by because more often than not, there's 6 unrelated men living in this home. Most addicts who are going through recovery are they're heavy smokers. That's how they help to wean themselves off of that, so they're always out back smoking. If you want to make a phone call, more than likely if you're in a house with 6 unrelated people, you're going to go outside. So the way and manner that they live is a little different than we may be accustomed to in a typical single-family home residence. But to answer your question, when we do go after the sober homes, as State Attorney Aaron Burgess says, there's a task force. We get search warrants. These are typically not a SWAT team type entry situation, but if necessary, that is what is used. But the preferred method would be a little softer approach. But we typically surround the home and call out the occupants, and I'm happy to say that there's been no violence at any of these locations as of yet, and I hope that that continues as far as the police interaction.
I don't see any other questions, but I'll give one question to Captain Stravelli. Okay, heading up to Tallahassee last year, I stopped at the stops, along the turnpike, and I saw a sign, a disturbing sign in the ladies' room. It does say, if you see someone who looks like they're in trouble or distress, are they helping at all with the human trafficking issue? Those signs that they're putting up,
The gas station
where are
restaurants.
they? Yeah.
I don't have any information about signs in the bathrooms, but we do have a lot of things that we're going to be doing to try to, as I mentioned before, to get the word out so that people are more observant. Sometimes they don't realize what they're seeing in front of their faces, and that's what we want to change. We want to try to get educate more people, especially people that are working hospitals and other settings like that, where they may see victims of human trafficking, and then report what they see, because this will lead us to starting an investigation that might help us.
These signs, if I may, these signs, okay, these signs, always good to have Dave next day. I feel very safe up here. These signs we passed in the state legislature last year, and I was opposed to the way that they're presented because they're usually, Lori, in 2 languages, English and Spanish. They need to be in Chinese, they need to be in Filipino, they need to be in Haitian Creole, and many other languages other than just 2. And they need to be big. They need to be big because they should be focused on victims of human trafficking. So when they go into the restroom, if you're at any of our airports, you should see one of these signs in the ladies' restroom. They should also be in the men's restroom as well, by the way. And it is targeted towards victims so they can get on their phone, quietly call a research, a 1-800 number. Now, just quickly, I've called that number. Nobody answers. Nobody answers. And I've called other places as if I were a victim looking for, a safe place. And either no one answers or they put me on hold. And of course, if I'm a victim in a bathroom whispering into a phone, if they're going to put me on hold, I'm gone. So we need more funding. We don't need more laws. We need more funding from the state and the federal government to make sure that we get help. And what I'm saying in the RICO statute, real quickly, take these motels away from these guys. Take these houses away from them. Give them to the state. Have Dave Ehrenberg and our sheriff's office get the money that these guys are making off these girls and boys and convert that money into help that we need to eradicate this terrible crime.
Oh, terrific. Can we just maybe, State Attorney Ehrenberg's working so hard on both of these major issues here. Can you just tell us something just about what might be happening in legislation this 2017, and we can end with that?
Sure.
Thank you.
We have 3 task forces on the sober home treatment area, including members from the Delray Alliance. And we have 3 task forces. One is a law enforcement task force that identifies, investigates, arrests, and prosecutes the wrongdoers. We've made 11 arrests so far, and the feds did the major arrest of Chapman. We have 2 other task forces, which brings together community groups and stakeholders and knowledgeable individuals in the area to suggest changes to the law. So we have a whole legislative package that's come out of this. Plus, we convened a grand jury to come up with a legislative package, suggestions for Tallahassee to fix. If you ask me, though, of all of our legislative suggestions, if you ask me what is the #1 thing that can be done to fix this situation, because we've got a lot of them, I would say this. The #1 thing that can be done is to get the federal government to get China to stop the flow of fentanyl and carfentanil into this country. If you think that's impossible, remember Flakka? Flakka is the drug that makes people rip off their clothes and bite people's faces off. Flakka is not seen much anymore. Right, guys? We don't see it. Very rare. We don't see it anymore. You know why? The Chinese government stopped it. It was coming from China, and for whatever reason, they stopped it. They could do the same thing for fentanyl and carfentanil. And if that happens, lives will be saved instantly, because many of the people who die each day are dying from overdoses of heroin spiked with fentanyl and carfentanil. So that's #1. And then if you want a list of all of our other suggestions, we've got it. I think Mike Evans, I think we posted it on our website, right? Our state attorney's website. And the website is on the flyer we handed out. So that's it.
Terrific. We have a representative from Congresswoman Lois Frankel's office who would like to ask a question or make a statement. And can you use the microphone, please? Great. And just identify yourself to the crowd.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name's Felicia Goldstein. I work for Congresswoman Lois Frankel. I'm not sure if many of you have seen some of the newsletters, but this has been one of the Congresswoman's #1 domestic issue for the past few years. And in fact, she was able to bring down an assistant secretary from HUD who did a drive-around in Delray Beach with enforcement as well as the mayor and some other people. And since then, they have redone a certain portion of the joint statement, which is involved with Department of Justice and HUD. And we're hoping that that little tweak will help give the cities and municipalities some leeway onto doing some issues that can attack this on that front. And in fact, Delray is already passing some things in their commission that make the step. As far as the state attorney has just mentioned, the Congresswoman has been speaking with the state attorney numerous times, working with him as well as other people locally. And in fact, did discuss when the state attorney brought this to her about China, and is in the process now of getting in touch with the State Department to see what we can do, similar to what they did with Flakka, with regard to fentanyl and the other drugs that are being used to lace and make this heroin epidemic even worse by making the drugs even more deadly. We're also going to be working on a couple of other fronts that she's spoken with the state attorney. I think just last week they did a conference call, and she will continue to work on the federal side and partner with all the local officials, because this is a problem that is affecting everyone in our communities. And it's not just here locally, but it's across the country. So she has teamed up with some other people from other states that are also finding this to be a problem, and she'll continue to keep this as a #1 priority. Thank you.
Thank you. And that joint statement, the Alliance put out in an article in the Nostalgic America magazine a couple of months ago, and the Alliance also had put it out in a previous newsletter, that joint statement. And this might be an appropriate time to reiterate that in the next email or newsletter we send out, because that was, it will have some impact. Any other comments? Thank you so much for absolutely everything. Thank you, everyone. Remember, next month's going to be a great meeting on infill of the Atlantic Avenue corridor, Sims Road, Golden traffic issues with our county's going to be seeking an assistant administrator. And remember the wellness screening this Friday. If anybody needs some of these to put up in their clubhouses, just come and see me.